Competition, Customer, and Market Size, prepared for and presented at the 2014 Square One Entrepreneurship Training Program. Square One is a program of the Center for Emerging Technologies. CET is an affiliate of the Cortex Innovation Community. Square One is funded in part by the Missouri Technology Corporation.
Good evening, everybody. I know it's been a long day, and so I want to make this as energetic as possible and bring as much value to you as possible. I did set my phone on a timer because the only thing standing between me and the end of your day being on time is that I at least start and end on time. So I've got 30 minutes. I'm going to move fast, but I'll be available for questions. So what I'd like to do, if I can get this to move forward. Okay, got it. So what I really would like to do in this 30 minutes is I want to leave you with a draft at the end of today about some of the key slides that you're going to want to have in your presentations. And you've got a lot of good speakers today, and what I want to do is break our 30 minutes down into 10-minute increments. I'm going to spend 10 giving a very high-level overview of what some of these pieces are. It's not meant to be in-depth at all. It's meant to provoke you. I want to provoke you into thinking about these things. And then I'm going to spend, let you spend 10 minutes thinking about that worksheet and answering some of these questions. And then I think you'll find it very helpful. You're going to spend 10 minutes finding a partner and sharing what you've come up with, even if they're just ideas. And you're going to search for clarity and completeness. So we're going to move quickly through this process, okay? And then after my 10 minutes presenting, I'll be walking around as you're working independently. So if you have questions and you raise your hand, I can come over and speak with you. Let's see. So this doesn't work, is that right? Okay, so we're going to run through a couple of things. You know, as a marketer, what I would say is one of the big challenge, and I think all businesses always start out with, what problem are you trying to solve? And I really want to build on some of the conversations you guys had in the previous week. What is the market need? Because that's why we're all here. We're all here to meet a need for the market. And then I'm going to walk you through how do we talk about the size? What's your solution? A little description of your customers. How do you differentiate from the competition? And then we're going to get into some working time. So let's start with the problem. And so how do you clearly articulate a problem? You have to start with a need in the market. Sometimes it can be something that people can articulate. If you're really on the cutting edge, it's something that is so new, but you have some insight. So for example, about 12 years ago, if I put this little device on the table in front of you and I told you what it did, you'd kind of think like, well, what would I do with it, right? Because we didn't have all the digital photography, we didn't have the videos, but someone had a vision that all this stuff was going to be pulled together and we couldn't live without it. And there was an unmet need, an unarticulated need. And that's where you, in your own businesses, know that market better than anything else. So we have to figure out how to craft that. And I'm going to give you some examples of how others have done that. The next thing is your market size. This is interesting. I think I went through, and I'm going to share some examples with you. I think you have to really start at a high level, and there's both a top-down approach and a bottoms-up approach. But I think you have to have logic and, where possible, data to demonstrate how you're thinking about things. You know your business better than anybody else, and there's a lot of ways to approach this. I'm going to show you a few as examples, and then you have to look at your own business and get a sense, you know, what's unique about yours and build your case. The next thing would be your solution. So how are you solving the problem that you've talked about, that need, that unmet need? You know, for example, when I was at General Mills, we found that people would say one thing and do another. There was what we call cognitive dissonance. They would say, oh yeah, cereal is for breakfast in the morning. But when you probe and you go into their homes and you watch what they do, they're eating it for dessert at night. They're eating it for dinner. And so that's where you do your research and you have your understanding. And so we need probably a dinner cereal. I mean, we never came out with it, but there's a need there and an unarticulated need. And so you're looking for that cognitive dissonance where people say one thing and do another. You know, in the pharmacy benefit at Express Scripts, everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to take their meds on time, but they don't. Things get in the way. And so how do we create a solution to help them make taking your meds to be an easy thing to do? So with reminders and such. So that's where you have a need and then a solution that meets that need. And then the customer. So there's lots of ways to look at a customer. You can look at some demographics, which are just simple things like age, income, and then there's psychographics, which are really attitudinal. So how people think about things, their proclivity or around religion or other things. And I think you can, depending on the product or solution you're trying to sell, you might want to use those things to define that customer of yours. So starting with the need, who has the need, where's that need not being met, and then describing that customer you want to go after, because you can't be all things to all people. If you try to be all things to all people, you'll be nothing to everyone. And so that's where, again, it ties in with market size. How do we sort of narrow down on those areas? And then finally, the competition. And there's what's interesting is there's lots of stuff on the internet that I'm sure you're finding, how to present the competition. But you want to be able to show how your product and your solution is different than others, or how you're going after a different segment. It could be a channel you're taking. It could be a unique approach to the solution. It could be a trademark ingredient or a patent that you have that just solves this problem, and presenting it in relation to the competition. Now, what I would like to do next is I went on the internet and I found two companies whose slides were so simple. And this is what I want to inspire you guys to think about. And they're in your deck. They're so simple that I don't even know these businesses. But as I present them to you, you're going to go, I get it. I get the problem. I get the solution. And I get the market size. So the first one was this idea of pets. So the problem is, people love their pets. And they have a love affair with them. But when they lose their pets, finding them is a challenge. And so you can put up a sign, you can make phone calls, you can call the police. In fact, 10 million pets go missing every year. Okay, so now we're looking at the size. So the problem is, I lose my pet. That's a problem. Not many ways to go find your pet. It's a big problem. It's 10 million pets a year. 90% of these pets never come back. That results in some pretty sad people and broken hearts. Do you guys get the problem? Right? Is there anyone here who doesn't understand the problem that we're facing? Pretty simple, right? Right now you want everybody in your pitch going like this. Oh yeah, my friend lost a pet, or I get it, right? Okay, now the solution. So the solution is this device that goes on a pet. It's rechargeable, it's waterproof, and guess what? When you lose your pet, you can find your pet, right? It's not my business, but they made it so simple. Is there anybody here who doesn't get that? Right? Does it make sense? So that's what I want to inspire you to think about. How do you take the hardest job we all have, and as a marketer, the hardest job I've faced is making the complicated simple. It's really hard, but with complex things like the pharmacy benefit, that's what we had to do. Very few people out in the world want to break a sweat intellectually. The rich people who are coming to your pitches who have money, I can promise you, more than half of them don't want to break a sweat intellectually. And it's not a slam on them, it's hard. And when you meet those people that do, they're the ones who ask questions, and they're going to drill in, and they're really curious. You'll know them when you meet them, but most people really don't want to break a sweat. So you have to make it easy. The burden is on everyone in this room. I'm going to show you one other example. This one, by the way, I don't have a pet, but I got that. This next one's really foreign to me, but I got what they were going after. Again, so this idea that there's all these gamers, and they're really fragmented, and they're everywhere, and they have it's a fragmented business, and they do lots of things, and so they don't have a place to call home. So this company, and here are some of the problems that they have. I don't know if you can see it in your thing, but gamers are lost. They want to be more social. They feel fenced in with the networks that they have. They're distracted with the games and clothing, etc. They're fickle, and then they're lonely. So they define some of the key problems that they're having. Now, I will point out that anytime you see a marketing presentation where there's half the page missing, you know something's coming, right, to fill in there. So I'll get to that. So how big is this market? Okay, this is another way to look at the market. Well, there's 136 million gamers. There's all these games and community sites. There's all these devices. So this is, again, a build-up to, that's big, something I want to learn more about. And then here's the solution side. So for being lost, they found a home. So here's the solution to this problem. Now, if I were doing this presentation and it was my business, I might want to demonstrate something for you. So that this is the time when they might want to demonstrate. Let me just see how I'm doing on time. Great. So here's what they've done. This is what I would call a bottoms up. So they have their version 1, which is all the way to the left. They have 150,000 users. They talk about the number of portals, the number of games, the number of new gamers. And as you can see, as they add games to their market size increases. And then they have some key criteria here down to the left. So if someone were interested in understanding the market size, they can see how they're extrapolating out how they're going to get. And then as an investor, one could poke and say, well, tell me more about these different variables or elements. So this, again, another example of how one might drive size. So I'm not going to go through these, but I want to share some things that are in your appendix. Here's another way to look at market size. So there's the total market, but ultimately you want to get to that addressable market of yours. So by understanding that the gamer market is this big, you may say, listen, I only want violent games. I mean, you may say, I want violent killing sort of army games, right? And build a niche around that. And then why? What is it about that unique player as an example of an addressable market? Here's an example that shows a market that's growing and how one might build up the market and then the changes. This is actually from Square, that payment system. So interesting how they laid it out. Here's an example that I thought was really interesting from a company in the fashion industry and how they define their customer. So I'm trying to give you guys examples that you can build on to think about yours. Here's an example, I like this one, of the competition on the left and then the market size. So they said, listen, here are all the different players. We sit in the middle of these, and here's the market size of those pieces, and we've just got to figure out how we grab our piece. I would pull this apart personally. I'd have a lot of questions about it, but just a unique way to again, present market size. Standard, right? Here are the features and benefits. Here are what the competitors are doing. And then there's the 2x2 piece. So I'm going to stop there. I'm at 11 minutes and 40 seconds. What I'd like for you to do now is to take out the worksheet. And what I'd like for you to do, I'm going to time this. I'm going to take about 8 minutes so that we end at 20. And I want you to try and fill out just some thoughts on these different pieces on the worksheet. Try and get through the whole thing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call an audible at 20 minutes. And I want you to find somebody. And I want you to share. And I want you to each share for 5 minutes. And what you're looking for is you want to hand your sheet to the person sitting next to you, and then you want them to read through it. So you want to have some stuff that makes sense. And what you're reading for is clarity and completeness. And won't it be great to have someone who doesn't know your business to be able to read it and say, what do you mean by this? Hey, did you ever, and build. So if there's an opportunity to build on something, build on it for somebody. So I'm going to walk around. If you have a question, raise your hand. I went fast. The worksheets are there. Trying to make use of those 30 minutes.